What would you like to see change in your life? And what is the biggest obstacle that you're facing now? I run 2 programs called Inner Knowing and Good Life Designed for serious individuals who are ready to take the next step in their personal and professional lives. I will personally be coaching a small group of individuals on tools and frameworks for creating an intuitive practice and for creating self-mastery in their life. As someone who's helped countless entrepreneurs open doors of possibility that they never thought existed, I've seen these strategies transform people's lives. The best part is that you'll 10x your output, unlock your creative genius. I'll work with you weekly to overcome your limiting beliefs. I'll teach you how to create clarity, processes, develop your intuition, and set a new framework on how to live your best life. And you'll get access to guided meditations that I have personally created that are not available anywhere else. We'll create a new self-concept that you can practice moving forward. This method is so effective that even if you don't have a lot of time or if you think you're not ready for a change, these frameworks and methodologies will still work for you. You can check out the link in the show notes to join the waiting list, and you can also check out what some of the previous clients had to say about our time together. It's first come, first serve, and I hope to see you there. Hi, my name is Yasmin Tarehi, and this is Gateways to Awakening, where we host one-on-one conversations with leading experts in wellness, well-being, and spirituality. On today's episode, I'll be speaking with Dr. Clint Rogers. Clint Rogers, Ph.D., was an award-winning university researcher who had no time for alternative medicine until he encountered the ancient healing world of Dr. Naram while desperately searching for a solution to keep his own father alive. Since then, Dr. Clint spent 10 years traveling with legendary master healer Dr. Naram, documenting many ancient secrets and thousands of healing stories. And in his highly acclaimed book, Ancient Secrets of a Master Healer, a Western Skeptic, an Eastern Master, and Life's Greatest Secrets, which is now being translated in more than 30 languages, Dr. Clint shares the ancient secrets which have changed and even saved the lives of people from all over the world. I'm so excited to welcome Dr. Clint to the show, who is now a friend. So welcome to the show.
So good to be here, Yasmin. So good to be here on this powerful show. Thank you for what you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much, Clint. Thank you. So to kick it off, Clint, what is the kind of greatest healing secret that you came across on your journey? And maybe you could speak about one that you personally saw that saved lives.
Wow, let's just start it off right. Yeah, I love that. First of all, I do want to give some medical disclaimer. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a university researcher that just actually was very skeptical of this whole world, like you had just mentioned. And then when I saw how powerful it was, then I just wanted people to know it existed. And so I started documenting thousands of cases. And I think one of the most amazing ones that's been so useful over the last couple of years is it's an ancient secret that can actually boost your immunity, and it's by using things in your own kitchen that most people have. Yeah, you want me to share some of the ingredients?
Oh, please.
Okay, right before I share it, though, I just want to say that when the book was published, it almost took on a life of its own, where volunteers from around the world just said, "I need this in my own language." And so the woman who is translating into Farsi actually had a situation. And for most of the people who are translating the book, because the words go so deep into them, they have some cool miracle experiences happen. And so for her aunt, who was about 80, we call it 80 years young, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but she was in Iran and got sent to a hospital. The hospital contracted that dreaded disease that everyone was afraid of, and actually was in the ICU, and the doctors gave her, a week to live. At that point, this powerful the person who was translating with love was living in UK. Her name was Afsana. And so she had her family bring this home remedy. So the book is packed full of different remedies, and this one for immunity. And then there's a recipe for a soup, actually. And so this is a very powerful healing soup that I can talk about more in a little bit as well. But she had her family bring it to the hospital. And because the doctors had no other solution, they said they didn't stop. And so she started taking this home remedy in the soup. And within a week, instead of being gone, She was out of the ICU. And then she went home, and I got a video from her where in her broken English, she's saying, "Thank you, Dr. Clint." And then I got a message later on where she's having her birthday cake, celebrating a birthday that she thought she would never have. And one of my favorite things, I call it contagious healing, because at the hospital, the doctors were so shocked that they started telling the family members of other patients, "Please, can you make this home remedy and bring it? Can you make this soup?" So I have seen during this period of time where lots of people have been motivated by fear or worried about, their different things. You feel some security if you know that in your own kitchen is stuff that if you mix together, it can help you in very powerful and profound ways. So I'll just share with you real quick this remedy, and then if you can't write it down, I'll make sure that there's a way that you can get it. So you take 1 teaspoon of honey, 1/2 teaspoon ginger juice, 1/2 teaspoon turmeric powder, 1/4 teaspoon cinnamon powder, and then you can take 11 to 12 tulsi, or some people call it basil leaves, 1/8 teaspoon clove powder, 1 clove of garlic, where you mince it, and then you mix it all in a glass, like a half of a glass of warm water, and then you take it 2 to 4 times a day. Dr. Ram, my teacher, he said that everything is a medicine or poison depending on how you use it. And there's an alchemy when you mix some of these ingredients together in this way. My mom, I'll give you one more story about this particular home remedy. My mom has been kind of like a guinea pig for a lot of them. And so as I was putting together the book over the last 10 years, I said, and something would come up, like she'd have acidity or whatever. I say, "Can we mix the home remedy? And you try it." And she'd try it. And she's like, "You know what this tastes like, Clint?" And I say, "What?" She's like, "This one tastes like dirt." But she's a school teacher. And so she was, how, I don't know, Yasmin, if this has ever happened for you, but when you're on the edge of getting sick, you can kind of tell.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So she was on the edge of getting sick, and she's like, "Clint, is there anything that I can do?" And I was like, "Yes." And so we mixed this tea, this immunity tea. I gave it to her, and then she said, "You know what this tastes like?" And then I was bracing myself. Yasmin, she's like, "This tastes like liquid ginger snaps," which is like one of the cookies we have around Christmas time. So I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." She took it one more time in the morning, and then she never got sick. Now, I've talked to people who have had all kinds of side effects from different things and immunity low for different reasons, even doctors that have had problems they couldn't get rid of. And then they take this immunity tea and such magical things happen. So then I think, why not spread contagious healing? Yeah, so
Wow.
that's one, but the book is full of so many, but that's one I thought would be fun to share.
That is amazing. Amazing. I think the one that I know less about is Tulsi. I've heard about it in like Ayurvedic kitchens, but where can people access Tulsi?
Yeah, any of the ingredients, let's say you don't have it in your kitchen, you can get basil leaves. And if you don't have that, just mix whatever you do have. And actually, I've been teaching it's a 100-day Ancient Secrets experience. And as a part of that 100-day course, we have people get their own Ancient Secrets emergency kit. And if anyone's interested, we can tell you what ingredients you want to have in your home, so you're ready. Now, again, medical disclaimer, if you have a medical problem or emergency, please call 911 or whatever is in your country, or contact your doctor. But what if you're in an earthquake or tsunami like has happened in Turkey and Syria? What if you can't, no one can come to help you, or the hospitals are all full? Then why not learn these powerful remedies that you can do at home, at least while you're waiting for an ambulance to come and then see? I've had it also where people had big situations with blood pressure being so dangerously high. And in the book, it gives some of the secrets for what to do. And then by the time the ambulance comes, blood pressure is normal. And they test it all. And they're like, "Oh, why did you call us?" And they're like, "Oh, well, okay."
Wow. So I have to ask, what are some of the ways that we can lower our blood pressure?
Yeah, beautiful. There is in this ancient system. So just maybe I walk you back because there's some words that I'm going to share that won't make sense otherwise.
Okay.
My teacher, Dr. Ram, he had a teacher or a master that lived to be 124, who had a teacher that lived to be 145, who had a master, a master, master. The ultimate master was Jivaka. Now, Jivaka was the physician for Buddha. And anytime Buddha or his people would get sick, then Jivaka would help. Now, what I love about this particular healing system is that you can be any religion, any faith, no religion. You can be Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, atheist, doesn't matter. It's like electricity. It doesn't care what your religion is. You turn the light switch on, it just works. But in this powerful, unbroken lineage, they identified certain secrets that help you either overcome illness or rebalance your health when you need it. And so I've seen Dr. Ram, some of his patients were people like the Dalai Lama or Mother Teresa or Nelson Mandela or heads of state. We'd go to Dubai or so many places, and we'd work with sheiks or so many people who had all the money in the world, but the money couldn't buy the solution. And so then they say, okay, what were the ancient ways? And then they find one of these master healers. And thankfully, I was trained by him for a long time. And one of the most powerful things that he taught me is that there's secret points on your body. And when you press these points, it can help remove blocks and rebalance the system. They call them Marma Shakti points. And so part of what helps the blood pressure, coming back to your question, Yasmin, is have you ever heard of ghee?
Oh yeah, it's like this kind of butter.
Yeah. So you take butter and you cook it on a low heat for a long time, and it cooks all the milk solids out. And then you can pour it through a cheesecloth or a strainer, and what's left is this golden liquid that's actually very medicinal according to these ancient masters, this ghee. Now, I never heard of what it was before I met Dr. Ram, but it is so, so powerful. Dr. Ram, he had a funny thing. He'd say, I'm not encouraging anyone to steal. Please don't steal. But if you do steal something, ghee is worth stealing. Like you just want to emphasize like how important it is to have ghee in your home. Now, some people are vegan and they don't want any food that comes from animal. No problem. Then you can use coconut oil or something else. But for blood pressure, you take ghee, a little bit on your fingers. Now, because this is an audio program, it's a little hard to demonstrate. So I'm going to describe as clearly as I can, Yasmin. And you tell me if there's anything else that I can do differently. Okay. And
Okay.
if people want to see it actually demonstrated, maybe we can give them a link for a video that we'll send them. So you take some ghee, and right on the crown of your head, where the soft spot is on a baby, some people call it crown chakra, you just put a little bit of ghee, like two fingers, you scoop in the ghee, and you put some ghee, some right there, and you rub it in, and it starts to soak in. You take some of the ghee, and you put it on each of your fingers, your pointer and middle finger of each hand, and then you rub it on your temples 6 times. 4, 5, 6. You take some of the ghee, you lay down, and you put it in your navel, in your belly button. And then you take some of the ghee and you rub it on the bottoms of your feet. Then after that, there's certain marma points you press. Now, one of these ancient secrets in the book, Dr. Am says, a lot of people, they focus on what they don't want. So let's say the blood pressure, you measure it. Actually, this just happened for me the other day. A wonderful woman by the name of Judy Lamar contacted me while I was doing clinics in Switzerland and the Netherlands. She lives in the US, and she was a little bit panicked because her blood pressure was super high, 235 over like 150 something. I can't remember. Some people go to the hospital when it's that high. And then we said, let's do this together. So we did the whole process. You start pressing on your right hand, your pointer finger, the top portion, 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you ask yourself, what do I want? Now, if you see the blood pressure is that high, sometimes your mind automatically gets hijacked and focuses on what you don't want. You think about, am I going to die? Or do I need to go to the hospital? Or is my heart going to be damaged? Like all kinds of fears can come in. But instead, what if you focus on what you do want? So I asked her, Judy Lamar, what do you want? She says, I want to feel peace. Okay, beautiful. And when you feel peace, what will you see? What will you do? She'll go walking, she'll be in nature or whatever it was. So you picture that thing is of what you want. You have that in your mind's eye as you press the other points. Now, Yasmin, it's a little complicated to share some of these. What if I give you a video? I record a video specifically for you and your listeners, where if they're interested, they can go to a link and they can see the whole thing, what to do. And then you have it accessible for when you need it.
Perfect.
How does that sound?
That sounds great. Yeah, we'll include like a link to some of these practices in the show notes because I think there's a lot of information, and also I think people can buy your book, right, if they really want these details. So this is awesome. I'm very interested in different points in the body. We've had like different folks on the show discussing things like EFT and tapping and meridian points. And so what are marma points and what does it mean to like stimulate marma points? Maybe you could kind of zoom out and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, good. When people see it, sometimes they think, oh, is this like, and then they relate it to something they know. There's at the very beginning of the book, when I give a note about new words, and I say, for example, when I heard the word, so this book introduces many new words, but it's not the word that's powerful, it's the principle behind it. And I wrote, for example, when I found out about the word marma, I thought it could be anything, a type of butter, a cuddly animal, or what a drunk pirate might call his mother. Arg, I love me dear marma. But it's really an ancient process where there's points. There's 108 marma points, and you press them for specific reasons. And so, for instance, with Judy Lamar, when you watch this video and I demonstrate which points you press and how you press them, it actually rebalances certain things inside of the body. Her blood pressure went, I'm looking at her message right now, at 5 a.m. it was 224/138. After doing the marma process the first time, it went to 216/105. And then she did it again and went to 189/98. And then by the time she was done, was 154/92. She sent a message days later saying it stayed about that same amount, but she kept doing this process and it stayed under all the way until she actually came on. We do these Sunday morning calls. They're free for anyone around the world. And people who are reading the book in all kinds of different languages show up and they hear what, basically so many different miracle stories. So Judy was so excited saying, my blood pressure now for the last 3 days has been 133/79, 130/79, and 140/74. And
Wow.
so it's a subtle energy point, and it can help with all kinds of things. I've seen it help kids that are autistic or ADD, ADHD to become more calm, clear, balanced. People who have big nausea, like even on the airplane, if you ever get sick, Yasmin, I'll teach you one where it can make you just your stomach, everything calm down. Some marma points to help people sleep better. Even some marma points, if people are bald, how to help grow the hair back. And so it's fun. It's like in this ancient system, they see everything is connected, physical, mental, and emotional. And so when you activate one thing, instead of having side effects that are negative, it's actually side benefits. Dr. Ram, he would say to people, there's one warning I need to give you. If you follow these ancient secrets, you may end up feeling very happy. So if you don't want to feel happy, then don't do this process.
Wow, amazing. That's so incredible. I remember when I was reading the book, the first marma point, I think it was like in conjunction with some of the other pieces of the practice. So like there's ghee involved. I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly, but I remember it was like the thumb pressing over, I think it was the top lip under the nose 6 times.
Wow.
And I'm curious, like if that one, it just kind of stood out to me as one of the first ones that I read about in the book.
Oh, it's so cool you asked about that one, Yasmin. That first story in the book is so remarkable. It's this little girl who was in a coma, and her mother had basically traveled from Bangladesh to the top hospital in India. Do you want me to share this story in conjunction with the point, or just talk about what the point is?
Please, yeah.
You were asking the question, which ancient secrets have saved lives? This one did in a big way. And I've seen where people just from reading the book and following the instructions, like we were in Switzerland for the launch of the book in French, and then we went to the Netherlands for the launch of the book in Dutch. A woman drove from Belgium to the Netherlands simply to say that her brother was in a coma, and the doctors had given up hope. They said he's going to die in a matter of time, days or a week. And she actually picked up the book, read the story of this little girl who, from following these ancient secrets, came out of a coma. She started applying it at the hospital with her brother, And he started to move, twitch his body a little bit. And she was so excited. She went to get the nurse and was like, my brother, he's starting to wake up. The nurse came in and said, no, that's just a natural reaction, injected him with something to knock him out. So the next day she came with everything. So in this healing system, this Siddha-Veda, ancient secrets of Siddha-Veda, or ancient secrets of master healer, there's 6 secret keys of deeper healing. And one of them is home remedy. So that home remedy for immunity is one. Second one is Marma Shakti. But then in the home remedies, for helping someone in a coma, you take a, okay, so I'm just going to rewind a little bit. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So when I was in India, I was very, very skeptical of anything that didn't come from Western medicine. As a university researcher, very skeptical when anyone talked to me about energy healing or wellness. In fact, I had one good friend from high school. This tells you how arrogant I was, Yasmin. He came up to me and he was talking about this new energy healing that had really helped him and all this kind of stuff. And then I was like, then I had to, like, in my mind, I was like, oh, now I got to question his intelligence and maybe avoid conversations with. That's how arrogant I was. How, like, sure I was of something that I didn't really know. But when I was in India, I saw stuff that opened my mind in such a crazy way. And this is one of them. When I was with Dr. Naram, this woman came into the recording studio where he was recording some videos for a TV show he was on at the time, and said her daughter was about to die. And she didn't want that to happen. And so she was begging him, could he please go to the hospital and save her life? Now, Dr. Ram was about to fly out that day, but Dr. Giovanni, a medical doctor from Italy, who's trained at one of the top universities in Europe, was studying with Dr. Ram for over 20 years at that point. And so Dr. Ram says, I'm going to send Giovanni in my place. And also Dr. Clint, why don't you go? So we went to this hospital. Yasmin, have you been in an ICU before?
I don't think so.
Okay, it's called an intensive care unit, but it's so somber when you walk in there. Beeping machines, and in that room there was 4 bodies in beds, family members around them in tears. And we went to this bed, and all the equipment, everything showed that this little girl was in a desperate situation. She'd been in a coma for, I can't remember, almost 11 days. Dr. Giovanni took her pulse and walked out of the room to talk to Dr. Naram on the phone. And I asked the mother, I said, what do you want? And I never forget her words. She said, I just want my little girl to open her eyes and say, mommy again.
Oh.
And at that point, I felt like a fraud, almost like, because actually the hospital, even though it was in India, I had my own judgments about that too, but it had all the most up-to-date equipment, all the equipment. And they were visiting with the number 3 doctor in the world. The daughter came in for something called a type of blood cancer. But the side effects of those treatments is that a fungal infection took over her lungs and she went into a coma. She said she felt like someone was choking her. And after so many days in the coma, the doctor came to the mother and said, we've never seen any case like this come out. So please let us just take all her life support off and let her go. And that's when the mom got really, not only, I don't think she got scared, but she got, like, determined to find some solution. And so when I was there at the hospital, I'm thinking, look, if there's a solution, I didn't say this to the mother, but this place would have it. All the money, all the technology, all the expertise, all the education, if they had a solution, be here, not with Dr. Naram or these ancient secrets. And so when Dr. Giovanni came back in the room and said, here's what we're going to do, the mother was hopeful, but I was thinking we were wasting her time and giving her false hope. Dr. Giovanni says, we need to get an onion and milk. Okay. So all the thousands of dollars of equipment, it cost $1,000 a day to keep her alive in that hospital. And they're going to the kitchen looking for an onion and milk. And so they cut the onion in 6 pieces and put it in a bowl at the side of her head and put milk in a bowl at the other side of her head. Then Dr. Giovanni showed certain marma points. One is the one that you were talking about, Yasmin. And so in the book, it describes exactly what these marma points are. You press, and then the other thing was crushing certain herbs, putting them with ghee and putting them on her navel. Dr. Ram said that in ancient times, let's say someone couldn't take food through their mouth because she had life support. You couldn't give her home remedies, no herbs, nothing. said that the navel could act like a second mouth because when we're babies inside of our mother's womb, that's how we were nourished. So the mother did all of this, and I remember leaving the hospital and I had my own doubts about it, but I was so surprised. The next day, the mother called and said her daughter had gone from 100% oxygen to 50%. And then the day after that, called again, say that she started to stir, and 3 days later, this mother called and she said, Dr. Giovanni, my daughter opened her eyes again. She said, Mommy, she's awake. Now, again, I was skeptical but curious. And so I went to the hospital with Giovanni, and there I saw this beautiful girl awake. And I called this contagious healing at the beginning. This is another great example because not only that girl woke up out of the coma, and I recorded the whole thing, and I put it on YouTube even, but the nurse who was taking care of that girl, her own sister was in a bed next to her. And the doctors had given up hope. It was a different situation. Her liver had burst and they said she's going to die. The nurse asked the mom, "What are you doing? How did you wake up your daughter?" She did for her own sister, and her sister came out of the coma. Me and Giovanni went and saw the sister and interacted with her in that room where there was 4 people ready to die. 3 had come out of coma and 1 had already gone home from the hospital. So that's what I call contagious
Wow.
healing.
Wow.
Now, the woman in Belgium, just finishing this story, that had come to the book launch in the Netherlands, she said, when my brother stirred, the next day I brought the onion and the milk, and I put the onion on one side, the milk on the other side. I pressed all the marma points, including that one under the nose on the upper lip. I crushed the herbs. I did it, and his eyes opened just from reading the book and doing it. Her brother's eyes opened. She went to the doctor. She avoided that nurse, went to the doctor and said, my brother, he's waking up. His eyes are open. He looked at me. The doctor said, not possible. Came in, injected him with something to knock him out. Now, at that point, the sister was so determined, she filled out all the paperwork, got him out of the hospital. And by the time she came to meet me, he was standing, he was eating, he's talking again. Talk about awesome that this ancient secrets, an onion and milk, pressing certain points on your body or knowing what to do in certain emergency situations can help in such extreme cases. That's partly what helped turn me from a big skeptic and just wanting people to know this exists, that it's a choice. You may not choose it, but at least knowing it's a choice.
Wow. Wow. That is so fascinating. And it makes sense, kind of like intuitively that there's another portal into the body, which is through the navel, right? Because there is an opening there. And I'm so fascinated by how food and herbs, especially, and also with specific points in the body that you press, can have such a big healing effect. So can you tell us a little bit about, how you ended up in India and how you ended up working with Dr. Naram and, why you ended up writing this book? I'm just very curious, how did you end up on this path?
Yeah. Sometimes I think, what happened? Even for myself, it's totally different path than I was expecting. I want to share that story right before. Can I share one quote this is from the former Tanzanian ambassador to Japan, Australia, New Zealand. Her name is Her Excellency Dr. Batilda Salha Burian. When she read the story about this little girl, and her mother coming from Bangladesh, her heart changed and she said, wow, all these remedies are accessible and relatively inexpensive. And she said, this powerful book will change so many lives around the world. The Quran and Hadith speak about health, with the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, saying, God has not sent any disease without sending a cure for it. Through the ancient secrets described in this book, so many people will find their cure. I pray more people dedicate their lives to learning and sharing this ancient science to help people throughout Africa and all over the world. When she wrote that and sent it to me, and I just felt like, when I started this journey, coming back to your question, Yasmin, I was not open like that. I was very close-minded. Even though as a university researcher, I grew up in a very conservative area of the United States. And I didn't have a belief that there was something that could help when the most expensive Western medicine couldn't. Have you seen my TEDx talk, Yasmin?
I have not, Clint. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No problem. I just want to make sure I wasn't repeating anything you saw there. So yeah, I gave a TEDx talk that took off, and then I shared the story about why I started the journey. And in it, I asked the question, I says, how many of you have ever faced a situation where you wanted to help someone you love? They were facing some problem, some big problem or challenge. You wanted to help them and you didn't know how. Has that ever happened for you, Yasmin? Either for yourself or someone you love, maybe they had some health challenge or some other big problem. You didn't want to see them suffer. You wanted to help them, but you didn't know how.
I think when I was recovering from knee surgery, both knee surgeries, I would have appreciated maybe some other kind of ways of recovery that it just felt like it was a very long journey of recovery many years ago now, but
Yeah. I love that you say that. There's a dentist I met in Italy. He says that he's been using the ancient secrets as a dentist because whenever he does surgery, he wants it so people not only don't have to take as many of the drugs to numb their mouth, but they recover so much faster. And I think that same way of surgeons, or in fact, with Dr. Naram, I ended up teaching a university course in Berlin where some of the top doctors from around the world came to learn this because they just wanted to make it whatever they did better. So, anyway, coming back to that question, for me, it happened with my father. And I'm just going to tell this story in real brief. And if anyone wants to, you just search TEDx Ancient Secrets of a Master Healer. You can see the whole video. My dad called me on the phone one day and he said, "Can you meet me in my office? I have a big problem I need to speak with you about." And I said, "Well, I'm your son. We can just talk anytime." He's like, "No, this is important. Please meet me in my office." So we set a time. Now I started to get nervous, like maybe I did something wrong. My mom even called me the night before to say, "Please don't miss this meeting with your father." Now that made me feel very nervous. So I show up at the door and I knock and he opens the door. We walk. I sit in the chair in the front of his desk and he sits in the chair to the side of his desk. His eyes are at the ground for a long time and I know something is wrong. And when he lifted his head up and looked at me, he says, "I haven't told your mother and I haven't told your brothers or sisters, but I don't even know if I'm going to live to see the end of this week. And I just want someone to know where the loose ends are so your mother does not have to worry about it." Man, I'm just remembering my experience in that moment was feeling like whatever else was important in life just faded away. I just come from the university. Whatever problems I thought I had just melted. I felt like actually life punched me in the gut. I thought my dad would be there for when I had kids. He'd read stories to them. I thought he'd be there indefinitely. And there's so many things I never asked him, and just all the thoughts and questions and fears. And so I said, "What's happening, Dad?" And he told me, he said that he's in so much pain at night, like someone threw his body against the wall, that sometimes he didn't know if he wanted to wake up to see the day. My dad was visiting 4 of the top doctors in the area, most highly trained doctors, the best that money can buy. And they had him on 12 medications for everything from blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, CPAP machines, sleeping pills. He was going towards early dementia. And first time in my life I've ever seen my dad with depression. And so I said to him, he wanted me basically, he said, to know where all the passwords were for the bank accounts and different things. So that way, if he wasn't there in the morning, that my mom didn't have to worry about it. But I wasn't satisfied that he was going to leave. And so I asked him, I was like, "Well, what else can we do to help you?" And he says, "I've reached a dead end. 2 of the doctors the same month told me they don't know what else to do for me. They've given up hope." And that's when I said to him, I was like, "Dad, I've met," and I'm hesitant to even speak it because as a skeptic of this ancient science, I didn't believe in it myself, but I told him, I said, "Dad, I met this master healer and I saw him do stuff that I cannot explain. And I want you to come meet him." At this point, my dad did not look interested. He said, "Son, I've already tried homeopathy, reflexology, Chinese medicine, acupuncture. I tried so many things. big promises and they helped a little bit, but this is the situation I'm in. Please pay attention where my passwords are. So I focused, I listened, and at the end of it, I didn't want to accept no as an answer. So I said, Dad, I don't care what you say. For Father's Day, I'm flying you to see this master healer. At that point, he cracked a smile and said, at least it can't hurt. Now, fast forward, this master healer was traveling all over the world. The same thing I do today, traveling, seeing people in different cities around the world. So I went online, tried to find out where he was going to be. He was going to be in California. So I flew my dad there. He needed 2 people on each side just to support him. I'm going to fast forward this story a little bit. We saw this master healer. He understood my dad so well, it gave my dad hope for the first time. And with that hope, my dad was willing to try something he had never done before. And, Yasmin, one of the things he told my dad to do was change the food he was eating. Now, this shouldn't be such a shock, because if you're driving a car, a Mercedes or Porsche or the most expensive car, whatever it is, if you put 80% gasoline and 20% yogurt, cookies, cake in it, it's not going to drive for very long. It's going to break down sooner. You'll need to do so much more. But our bodies, we put all kinds of junk in it. And we haven't had very good education about what is the food that treats our body in such a way that it can last for a long time. So this master healer shared those secrets with my dad. But my dad was so confused because part of it was he needed to stop eating a majority of his previous diet. And so then he's like, what do I do? And so he gave him all kinds of foods that were delicious. There's a quote in the book, Dr. Naram says, if you change your food, you change your future. And I like to say, what if healing can be delicious? And so we have people, right now I have over 160 people doing a delicious detox. And so for 30 days, they go through this process of changing their food. And at the end of it, see what happens with your energy, with your mind, with your creativity. If you were depressed before, I've had people go on it before. One woman from Ireland, she said, I was struggling with so much depression. I didn't want to live the day. But she says, now I wake up in the morning and I kiss the mattress because I'm so quite grateful to be alive. The thing that I find happens is when you clear your body, you start to love yourself more. And this has happened for my dad. He started pressing the Marma points, taking some herbs, changing his diet. 6 months later, he called me into his office again and said, I have another big problem. I was like, what? So I go to his office, remembering 6 months previous and worried. We sit in the same chairs, and this time he pulls out a box from behind his desk with a big smile on his face. He says, my big problem is now, here's all my medications. I don't need them anymore. I don't know what to do with them. He'd gone from 12 medications to 1 in 6 months. Yasmin, that was awesome. No pain in his whole body. No more cholesterol problem. No more diabetes problem. No more blood pressure problem. I felt like I'd been given a gift worth more than millions of dollars. And that's when I told Dr. Naram, I said, thank you for giving my father back to me. This is worth more than any amount of money. I want to help you now. I want people just to know that this exists. People may not choose it, but I want them to know it's a choice. And then in the TEDx talk, I share something I shared in the book where at that point, Dr. Naram laughed. Now that surprised me. I said, why are you laughing? He says, well, I need help, but not from you. I was like, why not me? And he says, because I know you now, Clint, and your mind is way too crowded. If I told you these secrets, you just try and figure them out with your brain and not understand them with your heart. Now that surprised me because as a university researcher, that's my job. I figure out stuff with my brain. And he's telling me I can't do that with this. I said, well, what do? I want to help. And he says, okay, do 2 things. And one of the things he told me to do was go for an extended period of silence. Actually, 7 days or 10 days of silence. Have you ever done this, Yasmin?
The Vipassana kind of 10 days.
Have you ever done that?
It's been on my list, and every time I try to go, it has not happened for scheduling purposes. But I think I've gone like 3 days of silence on my own.
Oh,
but
that's impressive. When I've been speaking at events around the world, I say, how many people have had a day of silence? And no, hardly anyone raises their hand. So 3 days, bravo. But I say that 3 days is like you did the work, but you didn't collect the paycheck because the 3 days That's the toughest part. And then the magic happens. So many beautiful things happen. And again, in the TEDx talk, I talk about it a little bit, but I came out of that and I said to Dr. I said, I thought my dad needed healing. I didn't know how much I needed. Thank you. I'm so grateful. He's like, okay, now you can help. And so for over 10 years, I traveled with him and, hundreds of cities and dozens of countries and documented thousands of cases like my dad or like that little girl in a coma and then what people did, which home remedies or what Marma points or what specifically. And the whole goal was how can we help people where if they don't have a chance to meet a master healer, they can help themselves. And so it's been so beautiful as the book has been translated into so many languages, to see that just from having the book in your hands or even in your life, it's like a resource material. So that like a Bible of home remedies or Quran of whatever of home remedies or secrets where you can go to it and it's there when you need it. And it's really satisfying, Yasmin, to see that, well, first of all, that my own skepticism, that Dr. Ram gave me a second chance like that. So it's satisfying. But second of all, to see that now it seems like is the time the planet Earth needs this more than ever. I think it's never been a more exciting time to be alive than now, but it's a lot of things are changing on the Earth, Yasmin. Things we used to be able to trust are shifting. People don't know if they can trust whatever they used to trust, and so they're finding out where am I safe and where do I belong? And the fact that this book came out right now, I think there's no accident because for thousands of years, these ancient secrets existed. Why is now they're taking off like fire all over the planet in such a powerful way? And I think it's because it's not just about healing your body, but in the process, it also heals your mind and emotions. So you can be creative, you can be confident that no matter, there's a quote in here, Dr. Ram, he says, you want to treat any challenge, first of all, he says, any challenge, heartbreak, difficulty has within it the seeds of equal or greater benefit. So anyone listening here, if you're going through some big transition, you have some big challenge in your life, I want you to remember that quote. I'm going to repeat it again. Whatever is your challenge, heartache, difficulty has within it seeds of equal or greater benefit. And then he also said this. He says, you treat it like atiti devo bhava. Translated, that means you treat the unexpected guest as if God himself or herself has come to visit you. So what challenges are you facing in your personal life, whether it's a health challenge or a relationship challenge or financial challenge or a challenge worried about what is life going to be like on the planet? Instead of letting fear rule you, you say, okay, how is this God himself or herself showing up? And you start to see what is the divine gift in this. The very opening quote in the book says, I didn't come to teach you. I came to love you, and love will teach you. And I think if we, instead of letting fear guide us, we let love guide us. Instead of letting ego control us, we let love guide us. Then I think we'll see that this is the most exciting time to be alive and that there's no accident that you're here on the planet now and that you have a unique gift to give. Yasmin, there's one more important thing I think I definitely should share. I don't know if there's time.
Please.
Okay. The ancient secrets of a master healer isn't just about physical healing. Dr. Ram says the secrets that were preserved by these great masters throughout time, he said 95% of people on the planet don't know what they want. They just don't know. Dr. Ram says they do window shopping. They try this boyfriend, this husband, this job, that job. They're just always trying stuff and it doesn't work. He says 3% of people on the planet, they actually discover what they want, but they never achieve it. They don't have the right tools or technology or support. He says 1% of people on the planet, they know what they want, they achieve it, but they don't enjoy it. With Dr. Ram, I met so many billionaires and Hollywood and Bollywood movie stars and, Olympic athletes. And I was surprised they're at the peak of what everyone else is trying to get to, and they weren't happy because in the process, it was toxic success. They destroyed their health or their relationship with the ones they love, their children, and so they weren't happy. Dr. Ram says there's only 1% of people on the planet that know what they want. So they discovered what they want, they achieve it, and they enjoy it because they did it in a way that was non-toxic success. So one thing that I'm so excited about these ancient secrets being on the planet is because people not only, like, where does illness come from? It comes from when we're out of alignment with what our purpose is. And when you really discover what your purpose is, why you're on this planet, and you have tools or technology or support that can help you achieve it in a way that's not toxic, then you can enjoy being alive. You can enjoy existence. And it's been so beautiful to see, as we've started different courses or different experiences associated with the book, people finding financial success in a way that's good for the planet, good for their family, good for their own health, and then they can enjoy the success, or finding a love relationship or success in whatever is their, music or whatever, but in a way that they can enjoy that success.
Wow. I love that so much, Clint, because it feels very, anecdotally, I can speak about that. It does feel like a lot of people are always sort of moving towards some kind of end goal. A lot of times people are talking about getting to retirement, like I'll do this in retirement, and it's just an interesting kind of way of viewing the world, right? Because nothing is guaranteed. And I also believe like we're here to really bring our gift into the world and to enjoy it and to be happy and to live a life that is like one big celebration. And it
That's
just,
cool.
like that's at least the energy that I try to cultivate every day. It's like just one big celebration and so much endless possibility too. That we're living in such a conclusion oriented universe. Like this is all there is type of universe. But you and I know that our lives ended up very different than how we ever expected.
Yeah.
I know we were pretty much like almost at time, but I have a couple pressing questions I think will be really, really interesting to answer if we have time.
Okay.
Clint, so do you mind if we speak a little bit about, because I think in your book you had this section about menopausal woman having a baby after 50. Just
Yeah.
want to talk about that experience. And also, I think a lot of people oftentimes ask about like how to deal with heartbreak and adversity. That's come
Yeah.
up a lot. So maybe those are kind of the two big last questions.
Oh, so beautiful. I'm so glad we get to talk about this, because I believe someone on this listening to this right now, you're listening to this for a reason. Like there's no accident you're here. And sometimes just knowing something is possible is all that you need to let love guide you to the result. So there's a chapter in the book about, can a menopausal woman after the age of 50 have a baby? Actually, what did you think when you read that chapter title?
I was like, no. But of course, since it's part of the book, The Ancient Secrets of the Master Healer, I was like, well.
Yeah. I thought that same thing. I went to Paris with Dr. Naram, where we had a clinic, and I met the woman first time he went to France, or one of the first times he went, who was his translator, actually. And she said she fell in love with him because he was so funny. He not only healed us, but made us laugh along the way. And she said that she realized by being around him, her mind opened up to what if what I want is possible? So she went for a pulse consultation. So in this ancient science, there's a way of figuring out what's happening in the body, mind, and emotions by putting 3 fingers on the wrist. And by measuring that, you can see where's the imbalance in a person's body without them even saying anything. So Dr. Ram took her pulse. Dr. Giovanni was sitting right next to them and says, "Oh, I can see where the imbalance is." And one of the most powerful things in this healing science is the question. In the healing consultation, the question that's asked is, "What do you want?" And so Dr. Ram asked this woman, "What do you want?" Now, if everyone who's listening to this right now, you may not be a menopausal woman wanting a baby, but this story applies to you because you may want something that currently you think is impossible. And so you're not even considering it. Okay. And some of you listening may be exactly in this situation. So Dr. Ram says, "What do you want?" And she says, "I know what I want, Dr. Ram. I want a baby." And Dr. Ram says, "Very good. Now, Dr. Giovanni said, "Dr. Ram, can I speak with you?" He's trained, a Western medical doctor, one of the top universities in Europe, pulled Dr. Ram inside and he says, "Dr. Ram, not very good. She's been in menopause for 6 years." Dr. Ram says, "So?" He said, "Dr. Ram, menopause. Do you know what menopause is?" And Dr. Ram said, "Yes, but Dr. Giovanni, it's not about what you want. It's about what she wants." And Giovanni says, no, it's not about what she wants. It's about what's possible. And so Dr. Naram actually hit Giovanni on the head, says, be quiet, just listen. Went back to this woman, says, I'm not promising you anything, but I know that it's possible. In the ancient manuscripts, there was a woman by the name of Amrapali. Amrapali was, the physician, Jivaka, the physician for the Buddha, was also physician for the king at the time, King Bimbisara, and also physician for Amrapali. She was known as the most beautiful woman in the world. At age 60, 65, the king, who was only 30-something, fell in love with her, head over heels. Even though he had a younger and a beautiful wife, he still fell in love with someone almost twice his age. Now, what were the secrets of her youth? Well, one of them was having the hormones, very good balance of hormones. In fact, she kept her period long into her older years. So Dr. Naram took this remedy, in fact, it's in the book, this home remedy for balancing the hormones, female hormones, and gave it to this woman. Also gave certain herbs and certain diet. He said, this isn't a quick fix. In fact, for everyone interested in the ancient secrets, I want to say, it's not a quick fix, but it's about healing you deeper and deeper. It takes time and patience because we're not just suppressing a symptom, but we want to remove the core situation. So the end result is everything feels better. When Dr. Ram first met his master, at the time, his master was 115. And he says, my master would say, I'm not 115 years old, I'm 115 years young. And Dr. Ram would say, someone could be 100 years young, or they could be 20, another person could be 20 years old. So how can someone at 20 be old and another person at 100 be young? He said the secret is flexibility. He said someone can be 20 years old. You're old if you're physically rigid, mentally stubborn, and emotionally dry. And he said you could be 100 years young. You're young at any age if you're physically flexible, mentally willing to learn. You look at hope in the future, and emotionally full of love. And so he gave all of the 6 secret keys to this woman. She did it with discipline. After about 6-7 months, she called Dr. Ram. He says, keep going. So about 8-9 months, she called. She was so excited. She's like, Dr. Ram, I started getting cramps. You can imagine being excited about that. And then Dr. Ram was so excited, says, please keep going. And it was about, almost like 11, 12 months. She called and she was so happy in tears. She says, Dr. Ram, my period started again. Dr. Ram said he felt like he won a Nobel Prize. He says, keep going. By the time maybe 3 or 4 months later, she called Dr. Ram. She says, my period is regular every month. Like I feel like I'm 20 again. And she says, but I have another problem. And he says, what? She says, I want a baby, but I don't have a boyfriend. And then Dr. Ram says, well, what do you want me to do about that? I don't have a herbal formula for attracting a good boyfriend. Anyway, this powerful woman, she actually went a combination of ancient and modern. She was artificially inseminated, and so she had a baby on her own. And there's a picture in the book where her daughter is about 2-3 years old, where I went to Paris and I interviewed her and I said, what is it like to be a mother? She says, I finally feel complete. She says, the gift that Dr. Ram gave me through his devotion to studying these ancient secrets is it's so much beyond even words. And so I actually have a video of this woman sharing her whole story, and it's written in the book. And then what were the ancient secrets she did? I actually put the video online, and so many women started following this remedy, which actually is in the back of the book too, the Amrapali secret. And such beautiful things happen. People who've had painful periods their whole life. For the first time in their life, they have a pain-free period. Now, it doesn't taste, this is one of the ones, unfortunately, Yasmin, it doesn't taste very good.
Oh, no.
But instead of thinking of it like a tea, think of it like a soup broth. And you take it that way and you can have it because it has lots of things in it, like cumin and other kinds of stuff like that. So
Can you tell us what the herbal remedy is, or do you not know it off the top of your head?
Yeah, well, I can tell you there's a couple things. There's a home remedy and there's other things. There's a marma point that you press, and there's also herbal formulas and a specific diet, some food that you need to avoid and some food you start taking. So there's something called Mung soup, Moong, not just for people that not just women that want to have a baby, but this is good for anyone. It helps remove toxins from the body. Our mutual friend Yasmin, Gary Malkin, he says that he's on day 12 of a mung soup detox right now. And he said that he's feeling so good. Lots of the pain that was in his body is gone. And he says he's feeling more creative, more grounded, more confident. Now, the home remedy, Amrapali's Secret Home Remedy, it's on page 292 of the book. And you mix things like fennel powder and cumin powder, ajwain powder, black salt, dill seeds, coriander powder, and something called asafoetida or hing. Now, if you don't have these ingredients, you can find them online or at some local health food store. You mix them in certain proportion. You get all these together, and then you put them into packets. You soak it. And then after you soak it for about 30 to 60 minutes, you drink the entire thing. You do this several times a day. And again, it's not a quick fix, but the results are so worth it. You just have to have a little discipline and a little belief in yourself. Now, a lot of people, they'll go eat all the wrong food until their body is totally breaking down and they're desperate. And then they spend there's a quote saying, some people spend all their health trying to chase wealth. And then they spend all their wealth trying to get their health back. So don't do that if you're listening. Just take time, be patient, but love yourself. Invest in yourself. Take the time you need to let love guide you. Again, if you're listening, and if you're listening to this program all the way to now, there's no accident. Reading the book, Ancient Secrets of a Master Healer, will give you hope. But is it okay if I give a gift to everyone listening on this program?
Oh, yeah, please, please.
Because we've mentioned some remedies, like the one for home, for immunity, this one for helping women balance their hormones, not just if you want to have a baby, but for any reason you want to balance your hormones. Then there's also what to do if you have high blood pressure. I want to give as a gift to anyone listening 6 of the most powerful home remedies from the book. Even if you don't buy the book, just get these remedies. And maybe we can put it in a link in the description for just click on the link, put your email address, and it'll be emailed to you right away. Then you'll have it in your home. And you can start getting some of the ingredients and do an experiment. Just see what happens when you apply them.
Amazing. Amazing. This is so, so, so helpful and so wonderful. I'm so excited for all the people to read the book, to connect with you. Clint, unfortunately, we're coming at time. We might have to have you back for like a part 2. I feel like we could do a whole other conversation on these
Talking
remedies.
To you anytime is a joy.
So what has surprised you the most, looking back on your journey? What's kind of been most surprising?
Oh, man. I don't know why this question's making me emotional, Yasmin, but I want to say this. It's not about me, what I'm saying right now. It's about everyone listening. But like my identity about who I am and what's possible has shifted so many times. And things that I thought were impossible situations, I see that, like that beautiful quote from that ambassador from Tanzania, God hasn't sent any problems to this planet without sending solutions. And there's no accident that you're here now listening to this program, that you're here on Earth. And so one of the things that shifted in me is that I realized that I'm part of the solution on this planet and that I have a capacity in me. I know, because even my TEDx talk has already touched millions of people and that the book is being translated in so many languages. I know that I have a voice that can touch and change millions of lives. And if you're listening to this now, I want to say you do too. You have a gift. And when you remove the toxins from your body and your mind, and you start to focus on who you are and what do you want, not what someone else wants from you, not what the programming that you were given from your parents or society or whatever, but what do you want? And then you start to live that path. So much miracles can happen in that space. And you can know that, I'm safe, I'm loved, and I matter. And so I feel like that's probably the most powerful thing, is just seeing that, there is purpose to this life, which can sometimes seem so chaotic. And a lot of the purpose is life is asking you, what do you want?
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Clint, thank you so much. Oh, before we go, I wanted to ask about the heartbreak one, because I know that comes up a lot with our audience. So,
oh yeah,
if
so
you have
beautiful.
anything to share with folks on that, because I think, heartbreak from death of a loved one to relationships ending to kind of, yeah.
I'm so glad you said that, and I'll make sure I put that in the bundle of gifts, because I think what you're saying may be the most important thing, is how to be resilient in those times of devastation. If you've had a love relationship breakup, or you've had a loved one pass on, or you've just been fired, or you're feeling rejected in any kind of way. There's a chapter in the book which describes some situations where people don't want to live anymore and they're ready to take their life. And you asked me at the beginning what motivated me, and one of the reasons that motivated me is because I had a sister who took her life, and I didn't understand it at the time, but now I realize that there is solutions that you may not know exist, but they do, and there's hope. And so from my heart to your heart, I'll make sure I include that in the free gifts. And if you ever have me on again, I'll explain in more detail. I know we don't have time right now, but I'm grateful that you asked that. And I'll make sure I include that in the gifts.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. And we'll leave it in the show notes so that people can navigate to kind of more of these explanations. And then they can, of course, check out the book, check you out online. And where can people find you? Are there any resources you can point folks to in order to learn more about you and your work?
Yeah, great question. So I am on Facebook and Instagram, Dr. Clint G. Rogers. And then also the website, myancientsecrets.com. Myancientsecrets.com. There's so many resources there, recipes, and there's actually bonus videos that go along with each chapter of the book that are just included, where you can learn so many things and see things demonstrated. And there's a whole community. One unexpected thing, Yasmin, is that people have really let love guide them. And I've seen now hundreds and thousands of people just volunteering with love to make sure other people are supported in this process. And so, again, coming back to those who are at heartbreak, just knowing you're not alone. Dr. Ram says, whatever is your heartache, challenge, difficulty, has within it seeds of equal or greater benefit. For me, one of the great seeds of benefit is just seeing how much there's such good people on this planet that are believing in you and supporting you. So by coming to that website, you can also connect to the community. We have free calls every Sunday that you can just join out of curiosity, and see what happens in your life when you apply these ancient secrets. Consider yourself a researcher and just do an experiment. You don't have to believe me, but just try it.
Oh, amazing, amazing. Clint, this has been so, so, so lovely and so inspirational. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Yasmin. And thank you, everyone listening. Just trust that you're being guided by love, and just so grateful to be here with you for this precious time.
Oh, thank you so much, Clint. And for our audience, thanks for joining and for listening to this episode. We learned about the ancient secrets of a master healer with Dr. Clint Rogers. And you can tune in to Gateways to Awakening, where we host one-on-one conversations with leading experts in wellness, well-being, and spirituality. Thanks again.